Good morning, lovelies. Today we are breaking down my top 10 least favorite hero or protagonist tropes. These tropes will turn me off of pretty much any story and any medium. Before we get started, remember to subscribe to the channel if you want more videos on science fiction and fantasy through a feminist lens. I post twice a week. Number 1. No character agency. What is character agency, you may be asking? So character agency is that your character makes a choice or at least does a thing. They do shit. Now just to be clear here, a passive or reactive character does not necessarily lack agency. Katniss Everdeen, for instance, is a pretty passive character all throughout the first book until the very end. She doesn't instigate anything, but her reactions are unique enough and powerful enough that it keeps our interest and keeps the story going. No character agency just means that this character is basically a big lump of coal, and it's usually a woman. She gets kidnapped? Oh well, better wait for rescue. Her spouse is murdered? Well, why go on an epic quest for revenge when she can just wear black and cry all day? Her children are in danger? Well, what do you expect her to do? She doesn't make the decisions around here. These are okay as side characters, but as the main protagonist of the story, it is excruciatingly frustrating and boring. Number 2, the stand-in. Why make a whole character when you can just insert the reader directly into your story? This is basically Bella from Twilight. She doesn't have much personality and barely any description. It's designed purely for reader wish fulfillment. It's lazy, is what it is. Number 3, the power fantasy, aka the stand-in who saves the world, or at least is allowed to be a badass. This one is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, cause look, I do enjoy the John Wick movies, okay? But face it, he's got about as much personality as a brick. People, mostly men, really enjoy this type of genre because they can easily attach themselves to Wick or whoever the main character is. There's a reason that this specific character is almost always a white, middle-aged man who has, or at least had, a family. That's the audience that they are trying to insert into their movie. You're not empathizing with the hero who has to face insurmountable odds and still somehow come out on top. You are them. The writers didn't make a character. They made a very flattering mirror. Number 4, the chosen one. Specifically chosen for no other reason than the plot said so. There are ways to do this well. Read Rick Riordan for a really great example. But most of the time, it's just the author needs some reason for this farm boy who has zero military experience to have to lead an army and cannot think of a better reason. If you must do a chosen one, do something creative with it. Fake us out with who the chosen one is. Make us think it's the main character, but it actually turns out to be someone else. Make it the villain. Make it a mystery. One of these characters is the chosen one. Who's it gonna be? At the very least, choose a chosen one who is qualified for the job, because then I'll know that the universe isn't fucking stupid. This can be demigods, or they have a specific power needed for a job, or at least they trained for it. Number 5, toxic, and it's portrayed as fine. What I mean here is when the main character displays toxic behavior that's brushed aside or treated as normal, or worse, treated as a positive. It's okay that this guy is stalking and or assaulting his love interest. He just cares for her so much. Alcoholism is not a deep-seated trial, usually a symptom of trauma that has to be overcome through a lot of hard work and mental trials. It's just a cool accessory that can be taken care of in the span of a single episode. Now this is different from a flawed character. Flawed characters are good, but toxic characters are actively harmful to the people around them, especially their loved ones. And when this is portrayed as okay, I mean, there are many things wrong with that, but the biggest one is that we learn from fiction more than we should and more than we want to believe. Now this can work in a positive if there's a redemption arc. For example, the character starts off as toxic and by the end of the story they are healthy. Or if they at least acknowledge that it's wrong and start taking the steps to make themselves better. That's different, but most of the time when I see this in a main or major character, it's considered a good thing or a fine thing or a normal thing, and that's just not true. Number 6, the perfect character. That is, they have no flaws, or they have fake flaws, like they're clumsy. This is the Gary or Mary Sue, and they're boring because they have nowhere to go. If they're already perfect, they have no growth. Number 7, totally stoic. That means they just show no emotion. Their best friend died? No reaction. They're put in the extremely stressful situation of having to save the world in less than a week? No reaction. The love of their life finally proposed to them? No reaction. These aren't characters, they're cardboard cutouts. I want to read about human beings, please. Number 8, the rich crybaby. I'm one of the richest people in the world, and yet I somehow cannot achieve my dream, so I'm gonna whine about it to anyone who will listen. It is very implausible that someone with millions of dollars lying around cannot achieve whatever dream that they have. You're an oil baron who wants to be a rock star? Will set aside some of your billions, transfer power of your company, or just shut it down, and get some guitar lessons. Most authors acknowledge this, and so they have the workaround of family drama. That is, their daddy won't let them do it. Are you not a grown-ass man? Number 9, don't be such a girl. This is the hero who equates femininity with weakness. It's sexist when it comes from a guy, and it's also sexist when it comes from a woman. Butch, masculine girls are fine. They're great, but that doesn't make feminine people weak. They just have different strengths. Why does every strong female character need to learn martial arts or go through their narrative arc by learning how to fire a gun? I would love to see the story of this hardened masculine soldier who has to learn to become more gentle, that is, more feminine, in order to achieve the story's goal. That would be great. And number 10, the useless warrior woman. This is the so-called badass woman who needs to be rescued in every other scene. She's a genetically modified, specially trained assassin who don't need no man, except for when she gets into literally any fight and gets in over her head and thus has to be rescued. If she is truly as awesome as fighting as you say, she should be able to save the man at least as often as he saves her, especially if he is a noob who only started learning this stuff like a week ago. It makes no sense to me when Joe Schmo has to swoop in to save the badass warrior woman. That just does not logically compute. What is the use of having a warrior woman if she constantly needs to be rescued? If you really, truly want an easily damseled woman for your hero to swoop in and save because of romance and drama or whatever, fine. Make an easily damseled woman with strengths other than fighting. A diplomat, a doctor, a scientist. Why? So those are my least favorite hero or protagonist tropes in fiction. Please tell me yours in the comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Bye, lovelies!